Hi, my name's Barney Arnold, and I'm a member of the Select Board. And as a member of the Select Board, I was chosen as the liaison to the Community Preservation Committee, the CPC. And the CPC is responsible for managing the funds that we receive from the surcharge that is applied to all the property taxpayers in town, and then also the match that we get from the state. And the CPA has been in existence for a little over 12 years, and it's been a huge benefit to Carlisle. I mean, there's so many community benefits that we have seen in our town. And the law that was passed by the state limits what CPA funds can be used for. So there are 3 categories, and then a 4th one that I'll explain in a minute. So the first category is historic preservation, which I'm sure you can imagine, like maintaining the clock at the church next door, restoring the library initially, the Gleason Library, and others that we've benefited from. The second category is open space and outdoor recreation. So those are combined under the CPA statute, but in Carlisle, we tend to separate them in our minds because recreation is outdoor recreation, and then open space is typically land conservation. And then the last category is called community housing, which typically is affordable housing. And at the town meeting coming up, you will hear about 5 different projects that the committee is recommending be adopted. So the CPC is responsible for accepting applications from various entities that are interested in putting forward a project that is allowed by the CPA. And then we go through a process of reviewing those, talking to the applicants, and then our role is to recommend to town meeting what we think should be adopted. But it's up to the town meeting in May to make that final decision. So let me show you a little bit about how the funding part of this works. So I'm going to take these cups, and this first one, green, is going to be for open space and recreation, you know, the woods, grass, whatever. This next one is for historic preservation, and this purple cup is for affordable community housing, affordable housing. Now, I'm going to put out a 4th cup, and the 4th cup is typically just described as the undesignated fund. And why do we have that? Because the state statute requires a minimum of 10% of the funds that we have available to us, the CPA funds that we have available. A minimum of 10% needs to go in each of those 3 designated buckets. So this year, the CPC is recommending that $75,000 go into the recreation and open space bucket, $75,000 goes into the historic preservation bucket, and $75,000 goes into the affordable housing or community housing bucket. The remaining money we are recommending goes into this undesignated fund. And the reason for that is when you have more of your funds in the undesignated bucket, that gives you a lot more flexibility. So for example, if there are no projects for the affordable housing or community housing in a given year, but we've been putting more and more money into it, well, that money is then limited to being spent on affordable housing. Whereas if you do the minimum that's required and then leave the rest of it undesignated, you have more flexibility to draw on that money as needed. And then finally, there's a tiny little additional, and I'm putting out a very small little bowl, there's a tiny additional fund that's the administrative fund. So we have some staff support from Town Hall, and we're also members of a coalition, a statewide coalition, that's really helpful in terms of understanding the statute and also lobbying for improvements in it. I'd like to tell you, though, what available balance we have in our CPA fund as of now. And remember, some of this is money that has been received in the past and has not yet been allocated. So you'll see there's a pretty good fund balance in some of these accounts. And then I'll explain what we have available now for supporting the 5 CPA proposed projects that you'll be considering at town meeting. So in the Community Housing Fund, we started off with a very large balance of $636,000. I'm just rounding this off. And we'll add the $75,000, which is the required 10%, and that'll leave us with $711,000. For the Open Space and Outdoor Recreation Fund, we used all of those funds last year for a variety of great recreational projects here in town. And so that fund started at zero balance. We added the $75,000, and so their balance going into the May town meeting is $75,000. Under historic preservation, we started with $115,000. We'll add the $75,000, and that gets us to $190,500. So the undesignated fund then is the largest portion. So you'll see that we started with $2.3 million. We took out each of those $75,000 deposits into the other 3 funds, so that's $225,000 that we're taking out of the undesignated fund. And then that little administrative account, which is $35,000, is also taken out of the undesignated fund, assuming this is all approved. So that would leave $2,043,000 rounded off, for the funding of the 5 projects that you'll consider at the May town meeting. So I hope you all will have an opportunity to consider these projects. There'll be lots of information about them, and especially I hope you will come on May 18th, which is a Monday night, for our town meeting. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Brian Watterson, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Concord Carlisle School Committee. And I am here today to talk about the amenities building at the high school. The amenities building is essentially a project to put a permanent structure by the memorial field in order for us to have permanent bathroom facilities that are accessible to all members of the community. This may sound familiar because Carlisle voted on this last year for CPA funds, and it was approved by the town, and we do appreciate that support. But because Concord did not approve it last year, it is coming back again this year. What has changed is how Concord is looking to fund this project. Last year, it was going to be a borrowing project. This year, it's going to be through CPA, just like Carlisle, and they will be voting on it before it gets to the Carlisle town meeting. So just a little bit about the project. What we're looking to build is a 1,700 square foot cylinder building next to the memorial field, and this will consist of restrooms, women's room, men's room, and a single family restroom. It will also have a small concessions area where booster groups can sell donuts, pizzas, things like that. There won't be cooking facilities, but there will be a sink and counters and a window in order to sell whatever products people are looking to sell. And there'll be a storage area that's going to be available for recreation equipment. In terms of funding this project, the price has not changed overall since last year. We're still looking at a total cost of $1.7 million to $1.85 million. What has changed a little bit for Carlisle is the fact that the number of Carlisle students enrolled at CCHS this year is higher than last year. And so our assessment has gone from 23% to 25%. So what that means is that we are asking Carlisle for up to $465,460, which represents that 25.16% share. Last year's request at town meeting was in the $430K range. Concord would be funding through CPA, the difference of that amount. We have also just recently been made aware that we have secured some state funding of $175,000. So the state funding would be used first with the hope that we would not need to use the full CPA allotment from either Concord or Carlisle. This project has been a long time coming. When the new high school was built in 2015, it was meant to be part of the new high school. And while a private group was able to raise funds for the fields and redoing the fields around the high school, unfortunately, there was not enough funds for the amenities building. What that's meant for the 10 plus years since is that we've been relying on portable toilets by the field, which, while there is one that is ADA compliant, that doesn't mean that it's accessible for all members of the population. Likewise, when we have larger events such as graduation on the field, the school is bringing in additional restroom facilities so that there is more capacity. If this is approved in both of the town meetings, we are prepared to get moving straight away. The project would go out to bid as soon as it is approved in Concord and in Carlisle. And once those bids are back, we're expecting to be able to break ground in the fall and have the project completed in the spring. For all members of the school committee, this has become a very important project because of the fact that we want to be accessible to all members of the community. We have heard stories from a variety of people who have had various incidents that I will not get into because of the fact that they just are not able to use the portable facilities that are at the field now. Please consider helping pass the funding for the amenities building, and we look forward to seeing you at town meeting.
Hello, I'm Martha Feeney-Patton, the library director.
And I'm Caitlin Watterson, one of the library trustees. We're here today to talk about the CPA Article 26 Motion 3, which is funding for the Gleason Public Library renovation. So Martha, why are we renovating the library?
This is a project that we've been working on for a long time. It started out with input that we got from the library's strategic planning process, the town's master plan process, and what the library staff and patrons were seeing every day. That since the last time the library was renovated, which is coming up on 30 years ago now, things have really changed in terms of what the community needs from the space. So we're going to add more meeting rooms and quiet study spaces for people to work. We're going to add a real area for the tweens and teens of Carlisle, because we get a lot of them at the library, especially after school, and they really deserve a place of their own where they can go. Opening up the floor plan to improve customer service, visibility, safety in the library, and flexibility for rearranging things for special events or for future changes. Improving the acoustics in the library, the way the sound bounces around, and making some updates to conform with ADA requirements as well.
Great, good. I want to talk a little bit about the Gleason Capital Campaign and the fundraising that we've done. We started by interviewing directors of giving at major institutions and the MBLC for lessons learned from prior library renovations. And we kicked off this particular capital campaign in June of 2023 with a community celebration on the library lawn. We have different donor levels to highlight levels of giving for people. We've talked to a lot of large donors and run some very successful matching campaigns courtesy of those donors. We've put in a lot of grant applications over these 3 years, and we were successful for CPC funds. A couple of years ago, the CPC allowed us a matching grant of $767,000. So this is an additional request that we are making this year. We'll go into the reasoning behind that in a few minutes. We also have a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, which is terrific, and Qualcomm. We've had several unsuccessful grant bids over these years as well, and have more recently put in a few more too. And so we've brought the community together for some different fun fundraisers for the library campaign: spelling bee, mini golf, 3 books and brews events, 125th anniversary garden gala, conducted open houses and library tours to educate the community so people can come in and see what's really happening and why we want to make these changes, and an annual end-of-year campaign as well. But so, Martha, can you tell us a little bit about the capital campaign and the summary of that so far?
Sure, yeah. So overall, we have raised about $2.3 million, and that's including the existing CPC grant that we discussed, $200,000 from the Mass Cultural Council, I think about $800,000 in private grant donations through the capital campaign at this point, which is amazing, especially considering the
This
size
is a small town, yeah.
the size of the community.
Yeah.
So we've had hundreds of households in Carlisle contributing, and we appreciate all of their donations, regardless of the size. We've had donations in memory of loved ones, in memory of who were either loved the library or worked at the library. Businesses have sponsored us as well, especially supporting some of those special events that we did. And so overall, again, we've raised about $2.3 million.
But
which was
why?
our-
And what's the goal now?
So the 2.3 was the original goal, but with increases to construction costs over time, our goal now is 2.8 million.
Which is
Right.
a lot more. And so our request to the CPC is for up to $500,000 to close the gap in funding to renovate the historic Gleason Library, which is where we're sitting today. And we very much feel that construction costs have outpaced our ability to fundraise. And we are cognizant of the fact that if we do not start construction pretty soon, we may lose the ability to actually do this renovation because costs have just skyrocketed. So the good news is construction bids are out and are due back before town meeting, but we don't have those today, so we do not have a particular number. We will only request the amount that we need given the lowest bid that we receive, though. So, and we will have that number by town meeting. So if you're listening to this and it's vague, it is vague. If other sources of funding materialize after town meeting, such as those grant applications we mentioned, they will be deposited in the town account and will be used in lieu of CPA funds. So our request is for up to $500,000, although we might need $350,000 or $400,000. And then the trustees do have a bit more fundraising to do as well, and we're committed to doing that in order to furnish the library once it reopens. And so we're just asking for the town's support for this warrant, again, which is CPA Article 26, Motion 3 at town meeting. So let's talk about the timeline.
Right. So, assuming that these funds are approved at town meeting, I shouldn't assume, but, if we do have the full funding approved at town meeting, then we would be ready to move forward immediately with signing a contract and beginning planning work for the construction. And so we'd be looking at, preparing for the construction in June, moving the library into a temporary space this summer and beginning construction. And the estimate for the work altogether is 9 to 12 months. And, in addition to the interior renovations to improve the use of the space, the project is also going to include some really vital HVAC work that is being funded through the Municipal Facilities Committee. And so that's also work that can be done more easily while we're already doing these other renovations.
Well, the construction's already happening,
Construction's
right?
already
Less
happening,
disruptive.
combining it. The elevator replacement funding for that was approved last year as
Yes.
well. And so because all of these things are being combined together into one project, the hope is that we'll get it all done more efficiently than if it were spread out into multiple projects
And while the library was
and
open.
while the library is, right.
Right. So the original project cost, and we talked a little bit about this, Martha touched on it briefly. Originally, we were seeking $2.3 million for this project, which, as Martha shared, we've met that. We did it, which is really, really exciting. And then, unfortunately, the more recent estimate is closer to $2.8 million. So that's why we are asking for additional money from the CPC, is to close this gap. Unlike other town major capital projects, this is not being funded through the taxpayer dollars, so we are not seeing a rise on our taxes, but we are asking that for the town's additional support through these CPC funds that the town already has in hand.
Right.
So, in summary, would you like to wrap it up?
In summary, if you have any questions about this at all, people can contact myself at the library, 978-369-4898, or director at gleasonlibrary.org, or I'm there a lot of the time if you stop by, or the library trustees, you can reach at librarytrustees@carlislema.gov, and we'd all be happy to, answer any questions, give people info. But, we're really excited for this project as a way to really preserve our historic building and make it as usable and useful for the community as it can be for many decades to come.
Yeah, and we're so close, and so we really, really appreciate the town's support.
My name is Ashley Cody. I'm the town clerk of Carlisle, and I'm here today to discuss my CPA article, Preserving and Restoring Carlisle's Historic Birth, Death, and Marriage Records. So this project is going to be addressing the birth, death, and marriage records of the town. Those are also known as vital records. These records are of permanent enduring value. They're retained permanently by the town, and they're used to conduct a number of business needs, including establishing identity, verifying citizenship, conducting other business transactions. And they provide genealogical research materials to researchers. Because these types of records are so important, Supervisor of Public Records at the Secretary of the Commonwealth's Office recommends keeping these records permanently in paper format. That's because paper format is safer over long periods of time versus digital records. So these are required to be kept permanently in paper form. Prior years of vital records have already been preserved. The years that we're looking at are from about 1895 to present. These records are in need of preservation because they are either held in a bound format or they're held in sheet protectors in a 3-ring binder. Now, these are issues for the physical integrity of the records because the bound volumes leave the records exposed to the elements. So exposure to the air, moisture, and insects can all degrade the physical record over time. Some bound volumes are also mixed in the types of records that are contained in the volume. There are different sizes, and the size difference being bound together has caused some damage to the spine and some warping to the documents as well. The records that are stored in sheet protectors are an issue because they're susceptible to damage over time from the acids in the sheet protectors. If they're not archival grade materials, they're not made of the proper polyester or polyurethane, the acid from those can damage documents contained in them over long periods of time. The sheet protectors also don't provide support for the documents, so there has been some crinkling or warping as a result of them being stored in that fashion. The CPC funds, if approved, will cover the cost of archival quality sleeves and binders, and these sleeves and binders will be sized specifically for the type of record. These records typically tend to be different sizes. Death certificates are one size, birth certificates are another, so these materials will be sized specifically for these documents. The project's going to involve unbinding the records as they are now, addressing any damage, inventorying and making an index of the records, culling any extraneous materials that don't belong with the record, scanning the record, naming the digital files, and then rehousing the records in archival quality sleeves and placing them in binders that will keep the records together by type and chronologically. As a result of this project, Carlisle's vital records will have a digital use file, so that way we can use a digital file anytime we need to make a certificate as opposed to handling the physical record over and over again. This will obviously, help contribute to the preservation of the physical record. There'll also be standardized indices created so that we can reference and research more easily. And the physical records will be stabilized and preserved in appropriate housing that will be conducive to long-term retention. So overall, it's basically taking the birth, death, and marriage records as they exist now and rehousing them into appropriate materials that will support their long-term preservation. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. There will also be some photos on the website if you want to check out what this looks like now and what it will look like after the project is complete. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Ballantyne, and this is Julie Mercier, and we're here to talk about the request for the Bog House money to continue the process of converting it to affordable housing.
And this is part of the CPA article on the town meeting warrant. So, thank you, John.
And so what I want to remind everybody, this has been a process that's been going on for 5 years to convert the housing in the Bog House from farming the bog to affordable housing, 2 units of which will be available to Carlisle residents. So this is a long-term objective to integrate the Bog House housing into the conservation land of the Cranberry Bog.
Yeah, so those are great points, John. Can you recap the overall project goals?
So basically, we're trying to preserve the housing, the Bog House, which is over 100 years old, convert it to a housing, affordable housing, and to maintain the basic vista and look of the house that integrates with the huge Cranberry Bog reservation. The important thing is that we have been working diligently on this for over 5 years, and now we've talked to almost everyone in town regarding this project and going through the details. Now, Julie, you have worked very hard on the details of how we get there, so maybe you could go through some of that, what we've been doing over the past 2 years and where we're going and what this request is about.
Yeah, sure. Great. So to summarize, in 2024 and 2025, we consulted with engineers and architects to confirm that the project is feasible at a high level. So the outcome of that process was that we believe we can fit 4 units in the structure while preserving the historic character and building footprint. And that we can site utilities nearby on the site, and those utilities would be viable to support the 4 units of housing. So now, in 2026, the Housing Trust is seeking $200,000 of CPA funds to get us through the site planning and permitting phase of the project.
So that's terrific. And what that means is what we'll be doing is seeing where the parking and septic will be. At this point, it looks like it's going to be on the other side of from the house across Curve Street so that it won't interfere with the basic use of the bog, and that we can keep it sort of integrated with everything else. So that is the idea. Now, one of the issues that gets kind of complicated is this is conservation land. So can you just sort of talk about what the next steps are to, once we have a design and it's feasible and we know it can work, what's the process of getting it,
Right.
going forward?
Yeah, so that there is a major component of this that we should talk about, and that's the need for an Article 97 carve-out. And so what we're doing this year will help us determine what land area we would need to carve out of Article 97. So just a little overview of what I'm talking about here. So the Cranberry Bog house and land are under the care, custody, and control of the Carlisle Conservation Commission, pursuant to Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution. The process of converting the bog house to affordable housing, or any non-agricultural use, will require that the land needed to support the housing, the utilities, and the parking will be removed from Article 97 and transferred to the Select Board. The Article 97 removal process requires that we petition the legislature. And to do so, we first need a number of things, including a detailed property survey, an appraisal, and land to give back in exchange, which is referred to as replacement land. Discussions and decisions about the replacement land will happen later this year and will require a town meeting vote in the fall or in the future.
So basically, what we're doing is we're making sure that this land is developable and can be converted to affordable housing, and then the land is then separated out from the conservation land. It is replaced with something else of comparable value, and then we move forward with a permitting phase to build the affordable housing.
Right, yeah, and that's a good point. The replacement land will need to be of comparable ecological and financial value.
And then the issue is that once we go through that process, the simple process is that we can build the housing and do it, and then we get the approval from the town and town meeting. Then we go through the construction of the housing. And the important point is that we will then permit out with a not-for-profit developer and they will help raise additional funds to make this a feasible project. And that's where we're going, and that's probably going to take about 2 years. So this is the next step of making this project happen.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So to find additional information on this, you can reach out to me, Julie Mercier, Town Planner. My email is jmercier@carlislema.gov. And you can also go onto the Town Administrator's website under the Town Meeting page, and there's links to presentations and information regarding this project. So,
And you can obviously come to the Housing Trust and reach out to me, John Bell at brandeis.edu, if you want to talk with me.
great. Thank you very much.
I'm John Ballantyne, and I'm on the Housing Trust and the Council of Aging for Human Services. And we are talking about the rental assistance article that it falls under CPC for $100,000. So what I want to explain on this is that I am on both the board of the COAHS and the Housing Trust, and we support this article because a significant portion of Carlisle families fall under $50,000 income per year. In fact, that's 10% of Carlisle families, or 179. So there's a large proportion of Carlisle that may need additional support. Now, this article is just for rental assistance, $50,000 per year. And that's why we support that, and using the CPC tax monies to support that. So Jeffrey, you might want to introduce yourself and explain how this would work and what we go through.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Katowski, and I'm the Director of the Council on Aging and Human Services. And this program is a fantastic program that I am proud to support and offer in our department. This program provides targeted direct aid to low to moderate income households in Carlisle, and it provides aid up to $400 per month.
So how does it work? If I have, as I identified, there's a large group of people that are in need, how do I apply, and how do you go through that process of deciding how to provide this rental assistance?
Yes, so we do have a quick, easy application that is accessible on our website as well as in our offices at Town Hall. And we do ask that you provide a certain level of information tied to your income as well as your need. And for those residents who do qualify, we provide up to $400 per month in assistance.
And this is clearly, from a point of view of confidentiality and everything else, it's anonymous in terms of other people knowing about it. You obviously know about the individual, but there's confidentiality in this.
Yes, absolutely. Our office operates on that premise.
And so I think the important thing for Carlisle residents is to understand there's a large group of people who have needs and additional support, and at least we on the Housing Trust feel that that's something that we should continue to support, and obviously the COAHS feels that way.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Carlisle does face a real need, and this program, it addresses an urgent matter now, and that's the important thing. When people do struggle with their rental, with any type of expenses, the first expense to be cut is usually household expenses like food, education, energy, as well as other important expenses that affect children and families long term.
And I think the other thing, just as we talk about the services that you offer, while this is specifically for rental assistance, we have other programs that offer additional support. So this is looking at your mission of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. So this is just one tool in our toolbox to help residents age in place in Carlisle and remain part of the community. We certainly offer other programs, and we have fuel assistance, we have nutritional assistance, as well as transportational assistance.
So I think we all very strongly support this, and then we as a caring community feel that this is something that we should do and, feel strongly about it.
Absolutely. I believe this program embodies everything that's great about Carlisle.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.